So first of all, uh, we must understand the structure of the questions itself. So you can think of it as one main passage followed by questions on that passage with additional information, which sometimes do tend to themselves be as long as passages itself. So the first thing that you have to do is read the main passage and screen some initial information. There are certain things that you have to identify to be able to form some sort of opinion regarding the upcoming questions itself. So while there would be too many words, they would try to give you a very lengthy passage. Out of the 7 sets, there would be 3 4 which are very lengthy. You have to focus on these 5 data points. Data point number one is, who are the stakeholders? What you have to identify is who is the person that is getting affected, and you should ask yourself, who is gaining here, who is losing here. And finally, you should understand why this matters, because this will be used to ensure fairness, which is a main part of ethics. Second thing that you have to understand is, what is the core objective? What is this problem that we are trying to solve? What is the goal that you are trying to accomplish? This will align the purpose. Now, this core objective identification, this might not come individually from the main passage itself. So, different sub questions of a set can have different objectives. So, this idea is something that you will have to build by reading the questions also, and not just the main passage. Same argument is true for the root cause itself. So, what is the source of the problem and why is this problem existing? This will help you to solve what the real issue is. And this is something which is used to eliminate options as well. So, out of the 5 options, there would be some which sound good, which look good. However, they are not addressing the core issue that has to be solved in that particular question. Identification step number 4 will be, what is the dilemma direction? What is the trade off that we are looking at? Ask yourself, is this a yes versus no tension scenario? Are we looking at safety versus profit? Are we looking at quality versus speed? This will help you prioritize the correct filter. For example, if ethics is something that you want to prioritize, then in a scenario of safety versus profit, you should probably prioritize the safety aspect to be in line with the ethics. Finally, what is the timeline impact? Whatever the option is saying, whatever the proposed solution is it addressing the problem in a short term or a long term? The reason why this matters is that XAT generally prefers long term solutions. Of course, if they want you to prefer a short term solution, they will try to build that in the main passage, which is again something we will identify in this step itself. Now, this is a very important concept that you need to understand. What are the type of questions that you can expect? It is one thing to say that there are going to be 7 sets, 21 questions, but these 21 questions are 99% from these 3 types. First thing that you have to ask yourself is, do I have to make a decision? Do I have to decide an action that has to be done? If yes, then it is your type 1, where you have to choose an action. If you don't have to choose an action, you should then ask yourself, is an action already being proposed? If yes, then the question would essentially be asking you for supporting statements in favor or against that particular decision. And if the action has not been proposed also, then what they are asking you is for to evaluate the action, evaluate the decision. Is this good, is this bad? And how do you do that? By going through the missing information. So these are the 3 categories of questions that you will come across in XAT. Type 1 is action choice, where you have to decide what is the best action or decision in this situation. An example of this would be, what should we do? So they are directly asking you to decide what must be done. Type B is support. What would be the most likely outcome of a decision? For example, why is this action right? What will happen if we do this? And type C, which is the second most common, first most common is action choice, then you have missing info, and the third type is support statements. So in missing info, what is the most critical information that is needed before deciding? So they will ask you the question in this format, what will help us decide which info is required? So if we go through examples from previous year's ad questions, this is an action choice question, because look at the question statement. So these four lines, they are not your main passage, but they are additional information for this particular question. So main passage I have not included here in this slide. So look at the question statement. As Nalini had to rely on the support of her teammates, what could Nalini best do to normalize her relationship with them? So what you are being asked is, what is the best action given all of this information? Now, if you look at the options, all of the options are in an action format. Do nothing, confront Shalini, start saying negative things, invite teammates, talk to her teammates. All five of these are actions. So this is an action choice question. This is the most common type of question that you come across in XAT. If you look at the next example, look at the problem statement. Which of the following facts will best help Prabhu's regular customer in accepting the increase in fare? So, what was the decision? Increasing the fare. Has this decision been made already? Yes, Prabhu decided to increase the taxi fare. So, once that the decision has been made already, the question is now asking you for what is the best supporter of this decision. They could have asked you vice versa also, what is the best counterpoint for this decision. In this particular situation, they're asking you for the best supporter. So which of the following facts will best help customers in accepting this decision? So if you look at the options, Prabhu offers repair service, Prabhu is punctual, Prabhu serves, cost of living has gone up, Prabhu is facing financial hardships. So if you look at these five options, they are not telling you action items, as was the case for the first example. They are giving you statements which can be construed as a support for this decision. So they are describing a fact, a scenario to you. You have to decide which fact is the best for the customers to accept the increment in fare. Type C is the missing info situation. So all of this is context. This is the subcontext part after the main passage. This is the question statement. Which of the following pieces of additional information will help her the most in taking the right decision? So has the decision been made? No, you are still in the process of taking the right decision. Do you actually have to make the decision? Do you have to identify what the right decision is? No, they are not concerned with what this right decision is. They are concerned with what is this additional information that will help you to make the right decision, whatever that decision may be. They are not concerned with what the decision is. So let's first go through the type A question, the action choice questions that we get. It's the most common. The framework that we follow is F cube, FFF framework. First F stands for fair, and you must ask yourself, is this decision morally right and fair to all the stakeholders? Fairness is a summation of ethics and a balance for all the stakeholders. So the decision should be balanced in most cases, and it should be ethical to all. The next F stands for feasible, whatever this statement is. Now, when you are trying to be ethical, you can actually go ahead and be somewhat too idealist, making it unfeasible in a real business scenario. So the second factor, sort of balances out this fairness. Is this feasible? Can this be realistically implemented within the rules? And this is a summation of legality and the practicality to execute the said action. And finally, future proof. Is this decision, is this a bandage that you are putting onto the problem, or is this actually something which will make sense in the longer run? So is this decision sustainable, and is it improving your system? So if we look at an example, let's go through this case. A supplier's defect rate has increased significantly. Purchasing head wants to change supplier, but relationship is 10 plus years old. So who are the stakeholders here? Supplier, purchasing head, and the implicit stakeholder is what? The customers who will get the final product itself. So once your stakeholders are finalized, we can now move towards what is the issue that we are trying to address. By changing the supplier, what is the issue that you are trying to address? that the defect rate is high and you would want to have it on the lower end. The purchasing head wants to have a lower defect rate. An additional piece of information is that the relationship is 10 plus years old. So let us look through the options. Immediately terminate the contract and switch suppliers. Now, is this fair? The defect rate has increased significantly, but is it fair to the supplier that you immediately terminate the contract without an opportunity to improve, without any prior notice to the supplier? So generally these harsh options, these blown out of proportions extreme options generally fail the fairness filter. So immediately terminating the contract and switching the supplier, it's not a viable option. Continue ordering without change. Now, is this something which is fair to the customers? No, because customers will be harmed. And does this solve your future issues? No, because your issues will worsen later. Option B essentially is, advocating inaction. Don't do anything. So again, makes no sense. Inform supplier of issues and demand investigation and corrective action. So this is a valid response. Is this fair? It is fair to the supplier because you are giving him a chance to take corrective action. And if it pans out, it will also be fair to the customers. If the defect rate decreases, then it will also be fair to the customers, right? So this is a fair resolution. This is fair. It can lead to improved quality plus relationship as well, because the supplier has a 10-year-old relationship with you, and if he's able to work on an additional data point from your side, an additional request from your side, then that relationship will also improve. And is this something that is feasible? Yes, it is feasible. You can implement this. You can always talk to a supplier and demand investigation, particularly in a situation when you have been with them for 10 years old. So this ticks the box across the three factors that we have. Reduce price paid temporarily to compensate for defects. First of all, is this going to be fair to the supplier? Not really. Why? Because you have at this point not really informed them that this is something that is happening. You have not informed them, you have not given them an opportunity to improve. This is a good option. This is a confusing option because it sort of advocates penalizing the supplier for not meeting the standards, and that does feel something that is right. However, the way it is getting manifested here, it is wrong. In fact, if you were to look at it, option C should be your first step, followed by D and then A. In your order of how you would deal with a situation like these, the first thing that you would probably do is inform the supplier and demand a corrective action. If they are not able to take that corrective action, you give them an extra incentive to implement that by reducing the price paid. And if even after that they are not able to bring up the quality, then you terminate the contract. So the escalation happens CDA here. So immediately firing and reducing the price as the first step, it is not valid. Publicly warn customers about the suppliers. This is an absurd option, something you would probably eliminate immediately. In general, in that, public statements which are derogatory in nature are generally to be avoided because it is unethical. It is an issue with the supplier. It should be sorted between you and the supplier itself without involving the customers and without taking a dig at the supplier's reputation. And is this a sustainable solution? No, because if you do this, your relationship with the supplier will be ruined. So your answer for this question will be option number C. And as you can see, the framework works really well. You are able to connect the dots. This example, feasibility was not really an issue because all the options were actually feasible. You could have done those, right? But in that, feasibility also can play a part. So the next framework is for the support type of questions where you have to support the decision. Now, generally, we are saying that you have to support the decision, but it can go either way. They can ask you for this information will help you accept the decision, or this information will help you dissuade the decision. So you can have both positive decision impact and a negative decision impact as well. Reason that is risk versus the benefit, and outcome, which is control versus enable. You should ask yourself, does this statement show why this action slash decision is needed? That would be the reason part. And this is going to be the most important factor in these questions. Is this even required? Does this show why this action is needed? And second would be the outcome side. Does this statement show what the action achieves? So the RO framework is very straightforward. First of all, you have to look at the reason, the why for the action getting implemented. And the second is outcome. Does this statement show what the action achieves? So let's look at this example. City Care Hospital has three syringe bursts during patient injection in the last week. Quality head proposes a full recall and replacement from that supplier. Which statement supports the proposal? So, who are the stakeholders here? You have the City Care Hospital, you have the patients, and you have the supplier. These are the three uh, core stakeholders that you have. What is the issue? What is the underlying issue that we are trying to address? Syringe burst during patient injection. So in a hospital setting, safety is probably going to be the biggest issue. And when you are talking about syringe burst, you have the possibility of contamination. So this level of insight is something that assumes that you have this real world insight that boss, injections should be sterilized, they should not burst while in the process of injecting. So let us look at this. Other hospitals reported similar syringe failures recently. Now, is this a valid reason? Yes, it is. Because if other hospitals are also having similar situations, then it shows a systematic failure. This option acts as a solid reason for this decision. And if this happens, if you replace, would you have that the action will fix this? Yes, it will, because a defective batch will be removed, so your outcome will be shown. So yes, this is a good option to have. Option B, replacing syringes will increase cost by 3%. Now, is this a valid reason for this action? If you think about it, this is exactly opposite. You should not recall and replace if your cost is going up. So this is not a reason at all for making a decision to replace. Leaking syringes can expose staff to accidental blood contact. Is this a valid reason to replace the syringes? Yes, it is. So it is a valid reason. And if you replace and you get good quality syringes, will this no longer be an issue? Yes. So your outcome, the safety issue, will be resolved. A replacement can be completed overnight without affecting operations. So is this a valid reason to do this? This actually is a very good option. So if this is a multiple option, so they will give you options like ABC, ACD, ADE, etc. This is a weak option, but it is a valid option nonetheless. So it is touching upon the feasibility of this option by itself. Is this a valid reason? Not really, but this enables the decision. Think of it like this: you are the quality head and you have proposed a full recall and replacement, and let's say it takes 2 weeks. Would your other stakeholders be affected vis-a-vis the patients? You would not be able to administer injections at all. So the feasibility aspect is actually a secondary reason to go forward with this. It's a roadblock that needed to be checked. So a replacement can be completed overnight. So yes, it's a secondary reason to do so. So it is a yes, it is an answer, not as strong as A and C, because A and C touch upon the safety aspect while D touch upon the feasibility aspect, which is a secondary issue. But nonetheless, D would be a yes. The current supplier has served us for 10 plus years. Now, this in no way or shape connects to the safety aspect. Finally, the missing information type of question, for which we will follow a DIS framework. So the D stands for decision critical assumption. What it really means is Is this a core doubt that is blocking the decision? And you should ask yourself what must be true for this decision to make sense. The next thing you should look at is the impact of this particular information on the decision. If false, will we cancel the plan? Is this something which will change the decision from yes to no or no to yes? Is this even an impactful information to have about this particular decision? And finally, the specificity. Is this issue, is this information directly linked to the core doubt that we have? Let's look at this example. The global conglomerate Rainbow Electronics, known for its exceptional after sales support, is considering outsourcing its customer support operations to a vendor because of overutilization of resources. What data points are most important to help make this decision? So who are the stakeholders here? You have your global conglomerate Rainbow Electronics, you have the vendor, and you have your customers. What are the issues that you need to address? Overutilization of resources is happening because you have too many customers to cater, and your in-house team is required to put in too much work to cater to them. So that is the issue we need to address. And in that sense, outsourcing to a vendor is actually a valid option. What are the other data points that you have? What are the root, critical informations that you have been given? The company is a global conglomerate, which means that it has customers located globally in many countries. You have had exceptional after sales support. So your customers would probably be used to this standard, known for its exceptional after sales support. So now let us look at the options. Which data points are most important to help make this decision? Option number one, vendor agents have slower response times compared to in-house staff. Now, is this a decision critical data point? It is, because you expect exceptional after sales support. Your customers expect exceptional after sales support. So yes, this is a critical, decision point. Does this impact the decision? You would have outsourced to the vendor, but if they are slower as compared to our in-house staff, then I would not outsource to this particular vendor. I will reject the outsourcing. So yes, it has an impact on the yes no decision. And is this specific to the decision doubt? What was the decision doubt in my mind? That will I be able to maintain this exceptional quality of after sale support? That was the core issue that I had, the service quality. And yes, it is getting addressed through this point. This point provides information for this particular concern of mine, this particular doubt of mine. So yes, it's a tick 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 across the three decision critical, impact the decision, and specificity factors that we have. So it's a good option to have. Office rent will reduce if internal support is removed. Now, is this a decision critical factor? The decision critical factor was what? You should have exceptional after sale support, and it should accommodate, global customers. Was cost a critical issue for us? No, it was not. It was nowhere mentioned. So it is a side benefit. It is not a decision critical information that they have given me. Does this impact the decision? Office rent will reduce if internal support is removed. Uh, it is a well known fact. It will always happen. Will this change my decision from yes to no or no to yes? That yes, I must get a vendor because it will reduce my cost. No, it is not an impactful information that they have given me. And does this answer, is this specific to my decision doubt? Not really. Cost was never a decision doubt for me. So this is also a reject. Option number three, vendor employees are paid less than current staff. Your salary will not define the success. Just because the vendor employees are getting paid less than my current staff does not mean that they are getting paid less because their quality will not be up to the mark. So it is not a decision critical data point that is given to me. It is irrelevant to the decision. It is not impactful. They are getting, the employees of the vendor are getting more or less than my in-house staff. It will not impact the yes or no at all. The vendor has multilingual support covering major global languages. Now, this is a good option to have because while it does not cover the exceptional after sale part, but it does address the other issue that I had, that my customers will be globally located. So, yes, it is a decision critical information. If the vendor is not multilingual, will that have an impact on my decision? Yes or no? Yes, it will. I might not go for the vendor if they are not able to cater to other customers in other geographies for me. Specifically solve my decision doubt? Yes, because it solves customer reach by being able to cater to customers across geographies. It solves my issue. So it is a good option to have. CEO personally prefers outsourcing as modern practice. I mean, this is an emotional preference. They have not really given us any data point to support why CEO is, leaning toward this. So it's not decision critical. CEO prefers this or not. Again, uh, it does not impact the correctness of the solution. It does not change yes to no or no to yes. And again, is this specific to the decision doubt? Personally preferring outsourcing, is it specific to exceptional after sale support? Not really. It is not addressing the capability part, which is what we were after. So option number E is also wrong. So technically A and D are the two good options to have. If you want to do this in a structured manner, you can join our free course, link in description, where you will be getting the previous year sets in a quiz format, and along with them you will also get a discussion video on my framework for the same.